Hello, I'm John. I've got a question for you. It's a very short question, but an important one. Before I ask you the question, I'd like to share a story with you. And it's a story about a friend of mine. And I know that when usually people say it's a friend of mine, it's just made up. But this is a story that a friend of mine told me about his friend, so I think it's true. And it's about a girl who was having a really hard time. Her relationship was pretty much in tatters. She didn't have a job, and she didn't really know what she wanted to do. She had some issues with some of her friends as well, and generally things were pretty poor for her. And she really did feel like life was getting very, very hard. And I think as human beings, we travel through life, and it takes its different twists and turns, and sometimes it's really nice scenery, and we come across terrain which is really life-giving and life-fulfilling. And other times it's much more rocky. It's much more difficult to try and get through, and sometimes the road just seems really straight and long in that rocky place, and you sort of think you have no choice but to keep on trudging down that road just to try and get through it. My friend's friend had been in a dark place for a long time, and she wasn't particularly Christian, but had a number of friends who were, and they seemed to be quite supportive of her when she was down. But things just didn't improve for her, and she started losing sleep and becoming quite anxious about things. And around this time, she started to have a recurring dream. She dreamt that she was in a long, narrow boat, and the boat was on a big lake, and the lake was on choppy waters, and it was very dark, and the boat was moving along quite quickly. And in that moonless night, she wasn't sure where she was going, and she thought she could make out shapes in the water, but didn't know whether they were rocks or people or other boats. As the boat made its way through the choppy water, she looked behind her, and at the back of the boat there was a figure steering the boat through the waves. She couldn't see the boatman's face, but the boat sailed on, and as it came to shore, she woke. She got to a place where she had this dream most nights, and she shared it with one of her Christian friends. She explained how worried she was that the boat would capsize, or that she would fall overboard or smash into a rock. And she felt that this was really sort of reflecting the way that her life had become. And it felt really that was how anxious she was, that there was these obstacles in her life she just couldn't get through because they were always in the way. Her friend listened and was really concerned, and said to the girl, "I think you should pray about this dream. I think you should offer it to God before you go to bed." Well, the girl didn't really pray, so she was quite worried about this, but she gave it a go and just offered that dream up to God. And as she was going to sleep that night, having prayed, the following words came to her mind. It's not about how choppy the waters are or how sharp the rocks are. It's really about how much you trust the person who's steering your boat. Proverbs 3 verses 5 and 6 say, "Trust in the Lord your God with all your heart. Do not depend on your own understanding. Seek his will in all that you do, and he will direct your path." So my question for you is this: who's steering your boat?